We got a Fed red alert as we're only a few hours away from what should be no rate hike, but a potentially hawkish statement and press conference. So with the Qs going by, last trade 667 and 1/2. Is it really true that 80% of this tech wreck is over? Let's not waste any more time, ladies and gentlemen, and go to the charts. 12-month of the Qs, last trade 667.09. And if you've been following me for the last couple of months, and I don't do anywhere near as many videos, and by the way, is that a kick-ass new motherfucking logo? If you want to make more money, click the pinned comment below. More on that and an AI scam warning before the end of this video. I've been warning you about the bull trap, the bearish double top in Micron at 1200 before it dropped nearly 500 points. And I also told you, ladies and gentlemen, that SanDisk, when it was at 2350 and the RSI was 99.5, it was about to get cut in half. Last trade there, 1,021 down 58%. Is the low near? Don't go anywhere. I'll answer that in a second. All right, 12-month chart of the Qs. Last trade, 667.5. It's now 11 o'clock East Coast time. The Fed announcement is just a few hours away. Again, as I said to open this video, I do not expect a change in rates. The core minus energy has been coming down on CPI for the last 4 or 5 months. So the Fed has plenty of reason not to do anything, but I will not be surprised, given the Democrats in particular on the Fed pressuring Warsh into saying something about the fact that the war is now back on in Iran. Oil a few days ago bounced back up and over 100 on Brent. And while it's currently in the low to mid 80s, it is going to put upward pressure on inflation. However, 80% of the tech wreck is over. But the final 20% will take time and scare most of you half to death. If you've been following me, I called the top way up here on the Qs at roughly 748.50. We had a series of lower highs. It was textbook, easy to read if you know what the fuck you're doing. I also said center of the screen, just like February and March before the big sell-off all the way down to 555. Once you get trapped under the 50-day moving average, as we did here recently with the Qs, and it's currently the case now with the S&P 500, although the relative strength there and in the Dow is much better, it's bad news. And we gave up the ghost much quicker than we did right here, where we kind of went sideways for approximately a month and a half. Inside the Discord, where I do dozens of videos, not just 1 or 2 a week, I said first level of support is 665. Well, we're a whisker away from that right now. You've also got a cluster of support right there on the Qs at 650, and don't go anywhere. I'll show you a chart on SanDisk in a second. And then, of course, you've got the upward sloping 200-day moving average, which is that blue line at 644. And currently, unless something goes really, really wrong with respect to Iran, you've got max pain, in my opinion, that double top, the former all-time high of, let's call it 640 from last year. So this final 20% with 80% already in the rearview mirror is going to take time. And before it's over, as was the case in late March, and in particular last year during the fake trade war, when it's off a cliff before you had a bounce and a retest, it's going to scare most of you half to death. Folks, you only see me once or twice a week on YouTube. This is, in fact, my only social media channel. I'm not on Facebook, X, Clowntown, Instagram, Telegram, WhatsApp, Snapchat. You see my name, my face, our likeness in terms of our new logo anywhere else but this fucking channel. 76,500 subs, most of which, of course, checked out a few years ago when they ended the idol program. It's a scam. There's one way I get fucking paid. One. It's certainly not the ads I occasionally run on here. That pays me about 50 to 100 bucks a month. It's if you decide to click the pinned comment below, and don't click any other link than on my channel in my videos. It's smallbiztrading.com. It's 50% off your first month. You can cancel anytime because, as I said at the open, there's now AI scammers that are trying to clone our site. They'll set up something that looks very similar, including our new logo, which is bad motherfucking ass. And they'll have one difference or deviation in the URL. So instead of smallbiztrading.com, a place where you can definitely make more money, it'll be smallbiztrading with 2Gs.com. We had a guy yesterday, Patrick. You've got to click the link that we sent you on sign up and join the server before you accept the disclaimer and add your email for verification. He almost sent them over $1,000 or thereabouts until I was able to find out it wasn't the same URL. Folks, and I'll get to SanDisk in a second, including a bonus, so don't go anywhere. As AI continues to swallow up our world, you, like me, might be getting dozens of spam calls every single day. And your iPhone will say, scam likely. Do you know that 80% of those are AI? And it's approaching a point where we can't tell the difference. They're going to clone people. They're going to clone websites in an effort to scam you out of your fucking money. Mark my words, as I said in our Discord this morning, and God bless each and every one of more than 100 badass motherfuckers who have passed the test of time, sadly. And this is truly sad. We more than doubled our price in the last 6 months, and rightly so. I've got a 96.2% win rate for the last 1 year for 10x returns. 10x! Even the biggest cherry pickers made 3 or 4% on their money, and that's now 3 years in a row of massive triple-digit gains. But it's not enough to keep at least half from coming and going like the motherfucking wind. But mark my words, ladies and gentlemen, as AI continues to swallow up virtually every aspect of human life, you're going to want a place with real people who have a real sense of humor and really care about one another, and happen to be run by a quarterback / bouncer who puts up with not 1 ounce of fucking bullshit. If it's AI, if it's someone who can't load a fucking photo like the clown I threw out yesterday, or someone who doesn't follow directions, can't take a punch like what's going on right now, although we're in very good shape, or get along with other people, including this guy right here, you're never going to make it. But if you want a safe, secure place run by a guy who was a licensed broker for 15 years, 93 to 07, made all the mistakes, so you don't have to, including going bankrupt in 08, we've got the Holy Grail. We index half our money in ETFs like the Qs, but we only buy after a 10% drawdown, like right now, or preferably in March, all the way down to 555. And with half or preferably a smaller portion, same broker, same account, we trade small cap stocks, many of them under $1. And in case you didn't hear what I just fucking said, you could have made 5 or 10 times on your money in the last 12 months. Safety, security, knowledge, experience, and results. So when this video is over, and now we're going to go back to the charts, if you want to make more money, it's 50% off your first month. Cancel anytime, right fucking now at smallbiztrading.com. You can find me absolutely nowhere else except this channel and inside of our Discord. All right, back to the charts we go. Let's look at SanDisk. And you might recall back in June, and again, just watch some of these videos where I was talking about selling everything, bull trap, etc. When we were way up here on SanDisk at 2350, you had a 99.5 RSI. That's the most overbought tech stock in the history of NASDAQ. I said it's going to get motherfucking cut in half. Well, at 1,023 last trade, you're now down over 58%. So what's most likely going to happen with SanDisk and most of the other chip stocks, you're going to get a 61.8% Fibonacci retracement. In other words, the final 20% down, which is going to take time and scare most of you half to death, from let's call it 1,000 to the 200-day moving average of 831, is going to be at least a 61.8% Fibonacci. And given that 85% of volume these days is run by algos and machines / AI, they have a way to get to those lines much quicker than in the past. You know, folks, when I was a broker in the 90s, we didn't have program trading. We barely had the internet that Al Gore invented in 1989. And by the way, fun fact, the millennials and Gen Z right now, twice as large as the boomers in 1991, being led by, of course, AI, will generate the largest wealth creation in the history of humankind in the next 8 or 9 years. This is no different than 1991. Back then, of course, we were coming out of the Gulf War. We had the internet that Al Gore invented, and yeah, that's a joke, kinda. The World Wide Web was only 2 or 3 years old. AI in its current form, 2 or 3 years old. We still got another 8 or 9 years. But if you remember the 90s like I do, and again, I was a broker back then, we had not one but two 10% plus corrections every year. It was wild. Now, it's a lot less wild right now because of these zero-date options that expire same day. They've smoothed out the volatility. I mean, they've cut chip stocks, like, of course, SanDisk, in half in a matter of a few short weeks. So what do you do if you want to get long SanDisk? Well, in my opinion, once you break 1,000, this level of consolidation right here of, let's call it 930 and change, is the same as 650 and change that I just showed you on the Qs. So I would have staggered limits to buy between no more than 1,000 all the way down to the 200-day moving average of 831. And just to fuck with you, they may in fact undercut that briefly and then probably close over it same day or that week in order to avoid a major disaster. When I look at the charts in terms of technicals, I use MACD right here, deeply oversold, and you've got a triple bottom forming. So you're at least 80 to 85% of the way done with this wreck. But what you might have is you have a rally up to here, let's call it 1,300, and then you retest, you chop around, and then you get one more whoosh, whether it's now, August, or what is the worst month of the year seasonally, especially in a midterm year, September. And about the time the fake news, which is run by the hidden hand that wants everything you own, has got you scared half to death, that will be your time to get long just about everything, including the chips, for what is most likely going to be, in their case, at least a 50% bounce, most likely to at least 1,500, perhaps slightly higher, but that downward now sloping 50-day at 17 and small change is going to provide some headwind in the months ahead. In closing, again, you only see me on YouTube once or twice a week. I don't feel the need, like I used to in the past, to be here begging for your business. We've made over 20 times on our money in the last 3 years, and that's a fucking fact. And while it's clearly not for everyone, whether they don't want to pay me what amounts to $7 a day, folks, that's the $2,500 a year for an annual Discord, saving 30%, or they just don't fucking like me, period. And you know what? I somewhat understand. I've allowed a number of things, including the lack of engagement from most of our people, to get under my skin, but it's no excuse. And in the words of my late grandfather, rest his soul, served in the U.S. Army via the Philippines in World War II. Boy, listen here, boy, you're acting like a goddamn fool. So I can hear him ringing in my ears, and I've cleaned up some, and even more is on the way, of the nonsense I used to get bogged down in. So I'm fucking telling you guys and gals right now, nobody knows this market better than I do. Nobody was telling you to get the fuck out of Dodge with SanDisk and Micron before they got cut in half. And almost none of them right now, in terms of the clowns on CNBC or YouTube, are telling you 80%, if not more, of it's over. Now is not the time to fucking panic and throw in the towel. Kramer was on CNBC saying sell half of your Micron at 900. Where the fuck was he at nearly 1300? Answer, like most of those clowns that are dramatically overpaid to give you bad advice hiding under the desk. Doesn't it kill you? And this is a bit of a side note. What do you have to recommend for the folks watching us? I'd recommend you buy IBM. It's been beaten up. Wow. Talk about putting your nuts in the guillotine. They're all playing it safe. They don't want to get thrown out of their job, let alone off TV. But my nuts go in the guillotine. And over 95% of the time, I'm right. Our win rate north of 95%. Massive triple-digit gains every fucking year. And when it's time to get the fuck out of Dodge, like it was 2 months ago, I'll tell you. And now I'm telling you, it's not time to get the fuck out of Dodge. It's time to get ready for a major low in the next 30 to 60 days. And until next time, always remember that I love you. And I hope to see you join us in the pinned comment below right now at smallbiztrading.com.